But now let's talk about the Super Bowl. The Chiefs beat the 49ers 25-22. It was a great game. A lot of the takes that I'm hearing after the Super Bowl is like, is Shanahan ever gonna get one? How close is Mahomes to being the GOAT? Should the 49ers have fired their defensive coordinator? Is Brock Purdy the guy? Like, how are we grading Brock Purdy? Those are kind of like the takes that I'm hearing. Was there a lot of holds on the 49ers? So I'll just quickly run through my thought process on the game. I think, yeah, the holds, you could highlight some holds on the Chiefs, but I feel like if you look back, you could also highlight some holds that weren't called on the 49ers. So I don't think this game was like truly affected by the refereeing. I wouldn't say it was a fix, or like this game was robbed, or the Chiefs have the refs in their favor. I will say it's kind of crazy that they haven't had a hold in 3 Super Bowl games, but that's a different case. We got to look back at the other 2 games. This one specifically, it was like, okay, I could see they're letting them play, kind of, and it was kind of like even for the most part. Purdy, I think he played decent. I don't think anyone could look at that Super Bowl and be like, they lost because of him. But you might be able to say they didn't win because of him, which is different. This is different. Like, could he have made a couple more plays to win them the game? Yes. Did his play like stand out as like why they lost? No. That's what I'm trying to get at. Watching Purdy in the Super Bowl with Shanahan, it still does feel like the playbook is not completely wide open to him. It doesn't feel like, I've heard this term used before, like grown-up quarterback play. And to me, that means like any play, for the most part, obviously within reason, but any play is open. Any play is open. Any type of rhythm that we want to run our offense is open. And it doesn't matter how much time is left or how unlikely it seems that we could drive to get points to end the half. We're going to use our timeouts and we're going to be strategic and try to give our offense a chance, because the idea or the chance of getting points is more likely or more important than, any concerns we might have that our quarterback's going to throw a pick and put us in a bad situation. It still kind of feels like there's a little bit of drawback, a little bit of hesitation when it comes to calling plays and just letting Purdy air it out. It still feels like there's a little, like, let me rein him in a little bit. Let me not let him throw, this 20-yard in-breaking route. Let me not call this timeout before the half so that I give Purdy a chance to go take us down the field with like a minute left and no timeouts or something like that. That's just how it feels. It just feels like Shanahan still hasn't just been like, you know what? Fuck it. If you fuck up, it's on you. If you get it done, great for us. But I'm just gonna take all the reins off and let you do your thing. It still feels like he's holding him back just a little bit, just enough where it's noticeable. And I think Shanahan just has to let go and see what he really has. It's great to cater an offense to your quarterback, try to limit the mistakes. Obviously, they see him in practice more, but for Purdy to take that next step, because he's putting up the numbers and stuff like that, for him to take that next step, he has to just be playing full adult, grown up quarterback. No reins. Like, if we think we need to apply pressure to Mahomes in that offense, like, let's go. Let's do it. 4th down, let's go. Or 3rd and long, we're going to call big boy plays. Obviously, screens and end rounds and all these designs that Shanahan be drawing up, they're good, they work. But sometimes, those end rounds, those screens, those bubble screens, those crossing routes, short crossing routes, they're not going to be there. You're going to have to call your big boy, hang in the pocket, let the play develop. And obviously, that right side of the line, it's pretty bad, pretty atrocious. So maybe that's why. But that's what I'm seeing going into this next year, because the Chiefs were thoroughly outplayed by the 49ers in the first half. for big stretches of the beginning of the game. That was a 49ers game to be had, and they were only up like 10 or 7 for the most part. Like they couldn't stretch that lead, and they just let Mahomes stick around. And you let Mahomes stick around, he's gonna make you pay 100%. So I think that's what you know Shanahan has to do with Purdy. He just got to let go and see what happens with Purdy when you call him a big boy growing up offense, when it's not just bubble screens and nicely designed plays. I will say this: they could use a more of a Jennings played good, and Ayuk, did it. He's all right. He did all right, but like they need like a true number one wide receiver, maybe help out Purdy. Debo, he's great after the catch. He's a good football player. He could do a lot of things that McCaffrey could do from the backfield and cash in. As a wide receiver, he's not like a number one. He is a great player when you consider everything, but pure wide receiver, he's definitely not like top 10. Neither is Ayuk, even though he had a breakout season. So maybe that's where they go. But yeah, I don't think I will say this. There's a lot of 49ers I've talked to, 49er fans that are super down on Shanahan, and they're saying that he's never going to win one. I don't think that's the case. That's not my takeaway from this. My takeaway from this is that the 49ers, they're the favorites going into next year to win the Super Bowl. The NFC is the weaker conference by far. Just look at the quarterbacks. The 49ers still have one other year of Purdy being cheap. And even when they pay Purdy, I think Shanahan's good enough that the core of the 49ers is good enough to continue to keep going at least to the NFC Championship game. And if your season starts at the NFC Championship, or like you're consistently getting there, anything can happen, man. Anything can happen. A couple balls bounce your way. You don't have the shank punt hitting someone's ankle. You don't have, McCaffrey fumbling in the first drive. Like, you don't have this weird stuff going on, and you could potentially win a Super Bowl. You look at Elway, he was 0-3 in the Super Bowl before he won his last two. There's a lot of cases where you're not a winner till you win. I mean, it's that simple. Jokic is looked at in a way different light now because he won that championship than just a year ago. He had a lot of detractors and haters and stuff like that. You win one, it changes everything. So is Shanahan going to win one? Guaranteed? No. Do I think this, closes the book on him and he could never win one? No. I think he still has a good chance to win one, and I still rate him as a coach. I don't think they lost because of Shanahan. That whole deferring for the overtime and all of that, I mean, it's the first time that a game really goes to overtime with the new rules, with a lot of importance. So I think I would have probably deferred, but I can't blame him for wanting the ball first. People keep comparing it to soccer penalties. I saw a lot of wrong comparisons. People were saying like, oh, in a penalty shootout, you always go second, which is not true. I was seeing a lot of people comment that on like Instagram and stuff like that, and that's not true. In penalties, you want to go first because you apply pressure to the second team. Like, you score, and now that team is playing from behind. Like, they know they got to score. They got the pressure of knowing that this could be it. Like, if I don't score this, we're out. Whereas if you go first, even if you miss, the pressure goes to your keeper. Like, oh, I got to stop one or else we're out, which is different. And then the pressure comes to them too, knowing that like if I score, this game's over. But, it also adds the pressure. In soccer, definitely you want to go first for penalties. So the comparison isn't apples to apples, because in soccer you get one chance to score per person, right? So like it's 5-on-5, and then each person gets one shot at the goal, and then whoever scores the most out of the 5, or then you go into sudden death. With football, it's different because you get 4 chances on each down, so even though you could be feeling jitters, and then by the second, third down, you're kind of focused on the drive, so it's different. It's not completely like I wouldn't compare penalties and overtime like that, because in penalties you definitely want to go first, and in overtime that same pressure, like if the Niners would have scored a touchdown and now the 49ers, I mean, if the Niners would have scored a touchdown and then the Chiefs get the ball, that added pressure is kind of nullified by having an extra down. You know, like, yeah, there's pressure that we got to go score a touchdown because the Niners just scored one. We know that we got to go score a touchdown. That could be a lot of pressure. Like, fuck, like, we really need to go down the field. Like, it's 2nd and 10, and we know that we can't fuck up. We got to go down the field. But, you know, you get that 4th down, which is, I think, added super important. Like, you can't quantify an extra down. So the pressure, even the pressure that would be added, knowing that you gotta, like, damn, I gotta go basically ace this test, go score a touchdown. Okay, but you get an extra 10 minutes. You know, you get an extra down. That's not the case in penalties. It's like boom, boom, boom. He scored, I gotta go score. He scored, I gotta go score. He scored, I gotta go score. It's not. There's no added down in that situation. So I don't think it's apple to oranges. All of that to say, I don't think Shanahan truly messed up by getting the ball first. Yeah, I would have gone second, but I can see his reasoning for the third one. I can see why the Chiefs would go for 2 if they were matched. You know, it is what it is. If the Chiefs would have scored a field goal to tie it up and then they don't even get the chance to go for 2, you know, like if it was like 4th and 10 from the inside of 25, they're kicking that field goal. They're not going for it on 4th and 10. And then at that point, the Niners have a chance to win with the field goal. And then Shanahan looks vindicated.